Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the season for the Best Fleets to Drive For podcast. My name is Mark Morrell. I am co-creator of the Best Fleets to Drive For program. And this episode of our podcast is where we talk to our sponsors and we get to hear what they're doing and what is interesting and new in their world. And I am joined today for the first part of this episode, the first segment. I'm joined by Netrodyne, the newest sponsor to the program, and an old friend of ours, Adam Lang, who is now with Netrodyne. So, Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Mark, for having me on. It's an honor. I've loved working with you in the past, my former life in trucking safety, although I'm still involved in a lot of trucking safety at Metrodyne as the Director of Customer Advisory Services.
Director of Customer Advisory Services. Okay, so that is good because I told Adam just before we started this that I did not know what his actual job title was. So that's good. So tell us a little bit about yourself, how you come to be involved in Netrodyne, and how you come to be doing the work that you're doing right now.
Thanks, Mark. So my history is steeped in human resources, safety, training, uh, employee relations, and about 12 years ago, I joined the transportation field. And I tell you what, I've never looked back. I enjoy this field very much. I enjoy working with drivers, with the folks there, technicians, vendors, everyone in the transportation, specifically in trucking, seems to be just family. Although when you branch out from trucking, you tend to see more folks that are kind of like family too, and similar to transportation, but a little bit off. Um, Going beyond that, my role is to work with some of our prospects that are looking to purchase our system. Sometimes my role might adapt to work with existing customers that want to be heard about something specifically, and they may benefit more from an attentive ear from the industry versus a very caring customer success manager who can do a great job. But when I hear things specific to the industry, it kind of gives me new ideas and new ways to help solve problems. I work with our product team to give feedback on different features and user experiences. I work with our marketing team, hence the meeting here today with you. And I also developed a program that's in its infancy called the Safety Playbook that entails my presence on site with an existing customer to use the system not only like the way it's intended, but even further beyond, like a top-notch professional, which I hoped I encompassed when I was a safety professional.
Okay, and so you glossed over that, teased everybody with it a little bit, but you have a bit of a unique background because you are the only person I know at a sponsor who actually worked at a fleet that was involved in the Best Fleets to Drive For program. So that gives you a very different perspective. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your sort of history there. Give everybody the short summary of that.
Wow. So I believe, Mark, you'd probably be able to correct me more, but I have participated in the Best Fleets program from 2013 to 2022. And I believe that encompassed 10 years, which each year we made the top 10 best fleets to drive for, which was an honor. Uh, the process of which the questionnaire goes through different aspects of your company, such as driver benefits, human resources practices, operational efficiencies, all sorts of great, uh, uh, I guess, bifurcations of a company that you can look at and focus on. It was kind of, to me, like I want to say this really well, Mark. It's like a how to make a better company year over year over year. So not only are you networking and hearing more about what some of the other fleets are doing, but you get to see what you typed in, what you put in for your responses the year prior, And we all knew we had to up our game each year or it wasn't going to be beneficial for us. So we use Best Fleets as a brass ring every year to focus on for driver retention and to give ourselves a never be satisfied mentality.
Mhm. Excellent, excellent. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your current position. So we talked about what you actually do as your job, but let's talk about the company more broadly. So you're with Netrodyne, which in most people would sort of, as a shorthand, refer to it as a dash cam company. And let's talk about it from there, because I think that barely scratches the surface. So what is the mission? What is it that you're trying to accomplish more broadly at Netrodyne?
Well, I'm not going to recite the mission statement word for word, but it encompasses.
But could you if you had to? That's an
Oh
important
yes,
thing.
oh yes. I can
Yes.
read this directly if you
Yeah.
would like me to. Um, but it 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 matters a lot because it has to do with road and driver safety. And by developing revolutionary technology, cutting edge AI technology, taking some things that can be viewed by machines, machine learning, as more of a efficiency within an operation. You can spend more time focusing on what really matters at your fleet, but also still keeping a very watchful eye on safety and ensuring that you're getting positive feedback to your drivers. So, in essence, we have a tool that not only recognizes areas that drivers need to improve, but also when they proactively do something positive. And we're singularly unique in that space when a driver, let's just give the example of create space. When a driver is cut off from a vehicle that encroaches into their lane and the driver slows down slightly to create more space, they get a driver star. That driver star adds points to their daily total and it incentivizes them, as it were, because it raises their score. And if their score is tied to any monetary or swag based incentive at their company, they just got themselves something good. And I mean, the internal feeling of that, Mark, just when we know we did something good, when we did something right, and when our boss might point something like that out, it feels good. It sounds corny, but
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
bought into
absolutely.
it. It feels good.
So that's an interesting development and sort of a different direction, because there's a lot of systems out there, and now we're seeing more and more sort of AI-based systems that are monitoring the drivers and monitoring the things that are happening on the road. And it's really easy for them. Okay, it's not really easy. Relatively speaking, it's easier for them to catch the things that go wrong. It's easier to catch a hard brake. It's easier to catch a shift in G-forces as a result of a bad turn and things like that. And there's a lot of systems that are kind of focused on sort of, wrist slaps for drivers, so, spanking them for everything they do wrong. So what made Nitrodyne decide to sort of go in a different direction and add on that positive element to balance that?
Well, if our co-founders were here right now, Dr. Avnish Agrawal and Dr. David Julian, I'm sure they would give a much better answer. But what I've learned over time and what I've heard from them is the legacy systems were just that, Mark. They were systems that were designed to catch drivers doing something. And initially, back in the day, it was all inertial based. So hard braking, hard acceleration, things like that. And then the cameras would trigger, you'd get about a 10-second video alert surrounding that time, but there would be no context surrounding that alert. And the co-founders thought, you know, with drivers, they're always being told what they're doing wrong. And if we look at enough studies on people in general, workers, if you're told every day what you're doing wrong over and over and over, pretty soon you're just going to make a different employment decision or something really bad is going to happen. So
Mhm.
they wanted to create something unique that would also point out when they did something right, giving them a thumbs up.
Mhm.
Uh, the driver stars,
Mhm.
a brilliant little idea. We've got three different types of driver stars. and 4 different types of driver streaks, where if a driver makes similar positive behavior repeatedly over a time frame, they also get additional points and individual recognition for those streaks. So it's simply changing the perspective. Instead of catching them doing something wrong, catch them doing something right, and
Mm.
make sure that you tell them they're doing that right thing.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. And I imagine that the response from drivers is a lot more positive when it's not just when they're getting a balance. You get the good and the bad. It's a lot easier to hear the bad when you hear the good as well.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Mark. The responses from drivers with any type of camera-based solution is always going to be a little bit cagey, for lack of a better term. And I understand. Privacy is a big component when it comes to over-the-road trucking. Local drivers aren't necessarily staying in their vehicles overnight, but still, it's a brave new world. And now we have to protect our companies and our drivers from very litigious, very good attorneys out there
Mhm.
that want to take your money and put it in their pocket because they're good at that.
Yeah.
So these cameras can not only exonerate those drivers, but I feel like one of the most beautiful things it does is it creates a positive safety culture, or I shouldn't say it creates it, it enhances it.
Mm.
When you have a good safety culture, you have a good culture. And when you
Mhm.
have a good culture, oh boy, you're getting into best fleets category.
Mhm.
And that's why this program lends itself, driver eye lends itself to best fleets to drive for.
Wow, that is a fantastic pivot. You should be a TV spokesperson. Excellent work. Yeah, so that's I see I see the overlap there, and it is interesting of the things that you're talking about with recognition and sort of the performance management side of it on both the positive and negative side. It all creates a better culture and a better workplace experience. It's funny you're talking about what cameras used to do and how they used to work. And when we first started the program, the consensus from drivers was really cameras are evil. If you put a camera in my truck, I'm out of here. And then all of a sudden, YouTube came along and people started seeing this crazy footage of stuff that was being captured. And drivers started to say, oh, yeah, I wouldn't mind a camera because then I could capture and post all of those things. And it really became about that sort of exoneration thing. It became about just capturing, the crazy stuff that was happening on the road and giving people a chance to prove that it wasn't them that was the issue. And then sort of the next generation came in where it was starting to catch all kinds of little bad habits that people didn't notice and all of these things that are happening on the road that fleets didn't really have any awareness of because they weren't leading to crashes. So then we saw all of these coaching programs start to come up because all of a sudden you've got all of this footage of, not big things, but small things that can be improved. Well, you've got a foundation for coaching. And now they're sort of taking that to the next level because you're catching these things and you've got a coaching, you've got metrics that you can use. And I believe in your system, you track a lot of different metrics that can provide a
Oh,
good
yes.
foundation for coaches, right? So there's a lot,
Absolutely.
yeah. So there's a lot of opportunity for them to really take that safety culture to the next level, I think. And it's been very interesting to see that shift. And so,
I, oh, go on. I'm sorry, Mark. I was
no,
talking
I'm
over you.
rambling. You go ahead.
Well, when you started talking about data and metrics, there's been a saying for the past 6, 7, 8 years shortly after I got involved in trucking, we kept hearing about how much data we could collect and how that
Mhm.
data is like oil. It's good, it's
Mhm.
valuable. But what do you do with all that data? And some folks are worried that all that data might be used against them in some way, right? And some folks are worried that they've got all this data and they're not using it in the right way. Um, what I like about our system is you already have kind of a basic framework of what you can do with the data right off the bat, and that is with the green zone score. That's probably what I would call the best primary piece of data in the system because that takes your entire driving day, driving week, and driving month. And it aggregates a score that's based on how often they do the right thing and how many opportunities they have to do the right thing.
Mm,
So if you encounter 22 stop signs and you stop at 21 of them fully, you might create one stop sign alert.
mm,
And 15 years ago, if that occurred at a fleet, the safety manager would call, say, "What the heck are you doing? You're running
mm,
stop signs. You're putting my fleet at risk." And all the while, that poor driver is thinking to himself, "Hey, man, I stopped. I don't know how many stop signs I stopped at today, but I stopped at a whole bunch
yeah,
of them.
yeah.
And that was the only one I rolled." But because human memory is an interesting thing, they might not remember that. So
Mhm.
our system is able to say, "Hey, don't be too upset with this driver. They were 21 for 22 today on stop
Yeah,
signs."
yeah. On a percentage basis, I did really well. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, interesting. So we've kind of reached the point now in the industry where what I would call the modern generation of camera system, which is either AI based or telematics based, has become standard. This year, 92% of the finalists have got one of those systems installed pretty much across the whole fleet. And you're, I'm sure, happy to hear that a growing number of them are using your service, which is great to see.
I
Um,
am.
so now that it's become standard, what do you see as the next step? Where do we go from here?
Well, I think all things integrations has been like that hill to climb for a lot of us, like more and more integrations with all systems. And I'll just give an example, Mark. Um, your system that you use, Carrier's Edge, integrates with our system, Netrodyne, and we can. I'm going to give a very high level example of this, but if you get more than 5 stop sign violations in a day, that automatically can create a training session, quick 5, 7 minute training session on the importance of stopping at stop signs. The driver automatically gets an email and notification to take that training. They can log into their Carrier's Edge account, complete it, and move on. And then think about, I should be stopping with those stop signs, and I don't need to be taking training every day because I know the right way to do it. It's simply a matter of either you don't know how to do it or you won't do it. So it definitely takes away the element of I don't know how to do it
Mm.
versus I don't feel like doing it. So then you get two separate issues. You get a knowledge or foundational based issue where it just takes some more training, or you get a behavioral issue where you need to shouldn't say you need, you want to convince the driver that this way, the safe way, is the best way for all. So all bringing it all together, integrating with systems like that, where things are automated, processes are automated, where in times past you had to click some buttons, you had to check some data, and you might have to pick up the phone and have a conversation. That happens in an instant. So I feel like not just integrations with those types of systems, but all systems are going to become more integrated so they can work rapidly, compute on the edge, much like our cameras, and make instant decisions that are very accurate and have less of a margin of error than human eyes.
Mm. Excellent. Excellent. Well, I think that is going to bring us to the close of this segment, and that is a very nice place to end on what is going to happen in the future to make things even better for people. So thanks, Adam, and we look forward to catching up and seeing you in the future. Thanks again for your sponsorship of the program, and thanks for being here today.
Great. No problem. Love the products.
Welcome to the next segment of our Best Fleets to Drive for podcast, sponsor special edition. And for this segment, I am joined by our oldest and most revered sponsor, Epic View. And just before starting the recording of this, I went and looked at the stats and realize that EpicView has been a sponsor of this program for 10 years as of this year's edition, or 10 editions of the program they've sponsored, which is fantastic and also makes me feel old at the same time because I remember when it started. So, welcome to the program, EpicView, and Kyle. Good to see you again.
Hey,
I
Mark.
don't need to introduce you too much because you've done several of these before. But let's have a little bit of a quick catch up for everybody on what's happening with EpicView. I know you've had a lot of changes, done some new stuff, and so give everybody an update on what's happening at EpicView.
Yeah, well, hello again. It's really nice to join you. And yeah, I don't generally feel old until that statement. And when we look back at how long we've been doing this and how long we've been serving this industry, I'm a few follicles lighter, a couple gray hairs, more on my head. But yeah, it'll be fun to look back 10 years from now when we've done this for 20 years to see just how far we've come. You may be retired by then. I think I'll still be slumdogging it with somebody else. But yeah, no, pleasure to be here. Hello to the audience. I love doing this. I look forward to this every year and just getting on and talking with you about new things that are happening with us, with you, and certainly the industry. So if I may, I'll kind of catch you and the viewers up to speed on what Epic View's been up to lately. And what that entails, or what that includes, is we came to market about a year and a half, 2 years ago with a new product. Many of your listeners or the viewers know that when we launched this business, we started out and we were offering satellite services, and we've pivoted from satellite to IPTV streaming service inside the cab. Fleets love it because it's not as daunting to install a unit. There's far less equipment that goes in or on the truck, and it's easy to connect and service that provides not only entertainment for the driver, but engagement tools and education tools that fleets can take advantage of by our partnering with companies like Carrier's Edge, to promote driver training and other things, and our engagement app that keeps fleets um, engaged with their drivers while on the road, all the while providing the same great service that it's always had through our partner DirecTV. And so it's great. Drivers continue to love the platform. Fleets, as you can attest, and many of the nominees for this year's Best Fleets program can attest, is helping them by keeping drivers engaged and entertained while out there on the road driving for them.
Yeah, one of the things I thought was really interesting about the shift in your new platform is that it sort of goes beyond the old entertainment, which I think was fantastic. I remember when you first launched the product, I thought it was an excellent addition because drivers are out on the road and they've got downtime, and if you give them something useful to do with their time to allow them to really relax, they will take advantage of it. And if you don't help them have really good downtime, then problems come up. They start getting into trouble or other things go wrong. So, just giving people something like good quality TV is a really good start. And pivoting beyond that into not just entertainment, but education, engagement. You're talking about being able to connect with drivers, fleets being able to connect with drivers more directly is a fantastic way to keep building that community, right? So it's not just entertainment. Now it is professional development. Now it is collaboration and providing feedback and helping to build the business. It's one more way that fleets can stay connected to their drivers rather than just sort of sending them out on the road and saying, okay, well, you figure out your downtime on your own, and we'll tell you where to go next. Now it is much easier to stay collaborating with those drivers, to keep them engaged, to keep them developing. I think it's a fantastic development. So, yeah, it's been a great choice, a great direction for you.
Yeah, thank you. It has been. It really came as much of the credit as we'd like to take for it. It just evolved over the years of working with, forward thinking companies, asking for more, wanting, to develop a fleet specific channel. That was a term that was always getting thrown around in the early days of Epic View was, hey, this is great. Is there any way that we can create a channel specific to our needs that we can push content to and keep drivers informed about what's happening here at ABC Truck Company or whomever
Mhm.
it may be. And at the time, the technology, wasn't sufficient to be able to do that, over a DBS platform. And today we have those means, we have that ability now to, have created, for all intents and purposes, a fleet channel, a social media channel that's specific to them, that they don't have to worry about being on different platforms because one person might not have this social media channel or that social media channel downloaded to their phone. It's on the TV, it's on the box that we provide, and they're more than just the professional development. It's recognition. It's all about rewarding and giving an attaboy to Grandpa Joe, who just became a 15-time grandpa, and updates of his granddaughter or grandbaby's photo for the rest of everybody to see. And so it's really gone beyond and something that helps drivers feel more engaged, more recognized, and more, uh, frankly, you know, at one with the company, if you will, because as we all know, they're on an island. They are, for every sense of the word, remote workers, and don't always get, the kind of interaction that you or I would working from an office or having colleagues that we see on a regular. So it's been really really good, and the industry's responded really well to it.
Yeah, it's funny. You're just talking about that as sort of the dedicated channel for company updates and things. And I was reminded that when we first started the Best Fleets to Drive For program many, many years ago now, there was a service that a few fleets were using, and I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was a service where fleets would make recordings of announcements and sort of general updates and things like that. And this company would take those recordings and burn them onto CDs and mail CDs to all of their drivers. And so drivers in a fleet at once a month would get these CDs in the mail, and they'd be able, back then people had CD players in their trucks, and they would play these things, and that would give them company updates. And it was clunky. It was as clunky as you could imagine it being, and tons of problems. But there was such a huge appetite for staying connected, right? Fleets wanted a way to reach those drivers and share information with them. And the drivers wanted some way to stay connected and stay in the loop, that they were willing to go through those headaches to do it. So over the years, of course, it's gotten a lot easier. And I think you've made it another big step easier with this service that's right in the truck. It's really easy, and it's nicer than trying to do it over like a 7-inch ELD screen or something. You've got a larger TV, you've got a better experience there, and people can really do something more than they would have been able to do otherwise. Really nice addition.
Yeah, it go. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't say that any better than what you just did. And there's something to be said for viewing a message not on a 7-inch screen like you talked about, or on a 11-inch tablet, but a bigger monitor, a TV to enjoy a movie on, or to fully get the back and forth of what you can get through this engagement app that you'd see on your television screen versus something small like that. So yeah, it's been really popular.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned to you before we started recording here that I noticed it when we were doing the scoring this year. I noticed your name getting mentioned. There's definitely a spike in mentions of obviously people that are using the service and talking about how they're using it, or talking about it as part of their communication plan, as part of their recognition programs, part of the services that they provide to drivers in the truck on the road. So it's obviously starting to work, and they're starting to really see the benefits from it. What sort of things are you seeing or hearing from customers that are using this new platform? What kinds of ways are they using it, and what feedback are they giving you?
Well, first I want to say I don't know if I ever shared this story with you. You know, coming off the heels of the or coming off the conference from last year, but I had a customer and a nominee. They weren't a customer. They came up to us afterwards and they said, that's it. We got to talk.
Mm,
Because they just won the award, and they said it's time that we finally start investing in services like you provide to our drivers, because we know it's we're here, right? And we're grateful that we're here. We're grateful that we won, and it's time that we start putting our money where our mouth is. So we want to sign up. Um, to your point, or to your question, how are fleets utilizing it today? At the end of the day, for them, they don't get the benefit of the TV hanging on a wall and watching, a game. It's a driver's comfort. It's a driver's, at the end of a long day, their ability to sit back and decompress from the stress that the day caused them. And whether that's watching a ball game, whether that's catching up on the latest, news, weather, sitcom, it just gives them an ability, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour, 2 hours, to just relax. And you'd be surprised at how much more fresh somebody is once they've gotten a good night's sleep from not having worried about the things that were happening, or been caught up with the latest that the fleet has to offer through our engagement app and all of the things that were being announced, or the latest training module that they were asked to complete by the safety department. um, it, it it's really a service that allows for the driver to stay engaged and stay in the know with what's going on, both in the world or from the fleet, or what have you. So they're using it a lot of different ways. Recruiting and retention's always been something that has attracted people to our business, but now it's more of a lifestyle play that they're coming around to, for the purposes of realizing that, hey, these guys want the same things that we sometimes take advantage of when we go home at night and spend spend the night in our own bed, or spend the night in our living room or family room, just catching up on the latest whatever. And so their practice of taking and putting this in there, we are seeing a huge shift with other amenities like data that fleets are putting in there, not for the everyday, cameras or this or that, but data that will connect their driver to, the outside world, and not have to rely on them saying, go and source that yourself. So it's been a really big shift, and frankly, pretty exciting to see how far we've come.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So that begs the question of what do you see for the future? Things are shifting. The economy has been going through a rough time for the past couple of years and is maybe starting to slowly turn around. I don't want to curse it by saying anything too definitive, but it seems like the economy is starting to turn around a little bit. We've got a lot more technology in the truck, a lot more people thinking, what can we do with this? How do we put these pieces together? What do you see for the future? Where are you looking to take your product, and what do you see in the future for these things?
Well, all I can say is what I know, and what I know is I'm a student. I try to gather as much information as I can from the fleets that we talk to on a daily, and I ask them, where are we? Where are you? How do you guys feel about the outlook of of the industry? Things, getting back to a normal, where you're making money again, and 90% or more, have a positive outlook on what's ahead. For us, we're developing some things in the background that will be pretty. I don't want to speak too much to what is going on, because we still got a new product. We've still got a ton of green pasture in front of us with offering this to fleets, and having fleets provide this to their drivers. But there's some things we've got cooking. They're in the hopper right now that are going to come, to fruition here pretty soon. That will be for the driver's benefit. We believe very much in the driver lifestyle and try to contribute to as much of what they're interested in by creating, what we can to keep them engaged with um, things that are of interest. So um, I don't know how that is for being super vague to the question that you just asked me, but we've got some things in the hopper that will complement what we're doing with Epic View Plus right now very, very well, and create a community, if you will, of drivers to come to a space where they can feel, like this is where we belong, this is where we need to be.
Hmm. Yeah, well, it definitely seems to align with what we're hearing from the drivers and seeing fleets interested in that the drivers definitely want to stay engaged. They want ways that they can feel like they're part of the organization. Like traditionally, drivers have been very disconnected from the organization. But the serious drivers want to be connected. They want to know what's going on in the company. They want to know how they can contribute. They have their own experiences, their own best practices that they want to contribute back. They want to keep getting better. They want to keep it getting educated. And the ones that really take their jobs and their personal lives seriously are also thinking about wellness and like fatigue and rest and all of those kind of things. It really has shifted from where it was 10 years ago, that it's a very different kind of mindset among drivers. And I think the stuff that you're putting together now and what you're talking about for the future really aligns pretty nicely with that. So I can see that the feedback from the drivers, I think, has always been your strong suit. And I think it is probably getting even better. I mean, imagine the drivers absolutely love what you've got happening now.
Yeah, and I mean, I think what you guys have proven to do remarkably well. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This is the 18th year, right? That Best Fleets has been around, or is this
17th year. This is number
okay?
17.
17th year that you guys have been doing this, and really, back then, what you thought, and I don't certainly want to speak for Best Fleets, but you bring together, what works for people, what works for fleets. Let's highlight that. Let's
Mhm.
recognize those that are going above and beyond, and really, that's all we want to do for drivers is give them a voice and let them um, tell the rest of the industry, what's working for them, and what are you guys in interest in, and how can we attract better drivers, how can we attract drivers that are going to stay with the fleet for longer than X time, and really create a culture from within that helps everybody to succeed. Nobody wants, you can't contain a good thing for very long before it catches on, and everybody's hopefully eventually doing it. But yeah, we're excited like you to continue um, recognizing the good that this industry does, and highlight those that go above and beyond. And our partnership with you guys over the years has been a fantastic marriage, and one we hope to continue for a long, long time, because it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, beautiful. Beautifully said, and thank you. And I think that's a fantastic point for us to end on. So, thanks for being with us on this segment of the podcast. And thank you again for continuing to sponsor the program. And I'll look forward to seeing you soon.
We will see you in North Carolina here in just a little over a month. Look forward to
Yeah.
it.
All right.
Take
Thanks,
care, Mark.
everybody. Well,
Okay.
hello. We are back again for the third and final segment of our sponsor spectacular episode of the Best Fleets to Drive For podcast. And I have already introduced myself and the Best Fleets program twice on this episode, so I think I'll not do that this time. But I am going to talk about our final guest. Today we are joined by Chris Davies, the Chief Strategy Officer of TruckRight. Hi, Chris, and welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Mark, I'm glad to be here as always.
Okay, so for today, we got a few things that we want to talk about, and there's lots of new stuff happening with TruckRight. But first off, let's just give people a quick overview of the core mission of TruckRight, what it is that you do, what broader problems you're looking to solve in the industry, and then a little bit of how that brings you to overlap with the Best Fleets to Drive For program.
Sure. I mean, I'm going to start with what you said last, which is how we overlap with the Best Fleets program. I think uh, TruckRight was founded by former truck drivers. Lisa, Dirk Kupar. I think a lot of people watching this have probably met them at some time, at some event, somewhere. If they don't know them, even better than that. And as former drivers, I mean, as a company, we have an inherent respect and admiration for truck drivers and trying to make their lives better, smoother, easier in mind. For us, the opportunity to support a program that recognizes fleets like that is just a no-brainer, and we love to be part of it every year.
All right. So tell us a little bit about the core service offering of TruckRight. What it is that you're trying to do? Like you said, Dirk and Lisa started as drivers, and then they ran a driver service agency for a while. So uh, I'm pretty sure that TruckRight grew out of some of the things that they were seeing that were challenges with the job of placing drivers and managing drivers. So, what was sort of the mindset behind it, and how are they focused on helping the industry?
It's almost like you have my notes, Mark. But you're right. They were seeing challenges with managing compliance. So TruckRight sprung forth from Lisa and Dirk, seeing that the transportation industry needed really robust compliance management software, and there was nothing that was doing it for them. And so they created it for their own company because they needed it. And then they realized pretty quickly that, oh, every fleet needs it. And so TruckRight was born from that safety and compliance management side of things, and just the need for really robust, airtight compliance management software. Now, we're born from that. We make fleets ultra compliant. I think we do it better than anyone else. But TruckRight expanded beyond compliance management to handle recruiting with a really slick, efficient ATS, lets you recruit the right drivers fast. We call it compliant recruiting because we come from the compliance side of things. As applicant drivers come in to the ATS, you're going to find out who's going to be the right driver, a compliant driver, really fast. We also focus on the retention and the engagement side of things. TruckRight has a really powerful CRM built into it, which is essentially a messaging system that lets you automate a lot of communications and make sure you're having touch points with your driving force, reaching out to them, staying in contact with them. And our software is built with retention in mind rather than churn. I think that's a big thing for us, is that we want fleets to be able to keep drivers and keep compliant drivers on the road. We don't want to contribute to churn. We don't sell data. It's all about getting you the right drivers into your fleet and keeping them compliant and keeping them with you. That's how we approach everything. And then, of course, the driver experience is a big part of it. As I said earlier, because we are founded by drivers and we have that respect for them, we want to make their lives easier. And so the experience for them on the other end of things, you've got the office users of TruckRight who have this great, powerful tool to help them manage their people and do all the things they need to do in that respect. But the drivers have a very easy, straightforward experience on their end. They can keep their own files up to date, keep their own paperwork, policies, compliance stuff up to date, and they can do it on their phone in their downtime, right? If they're waiting somewhere, if they're at home on the couch, if they're wherever they need to be, or wherever they have extra time in their day, which we know they don't have much of, they can get this stuff done with no paperwork, right?
Nice.
And yeah.
Now, one of the things that you glossed over a little bit there that I think is hugely important and not really talked about very much in the industry is that you don't sell data. Like,
Yeah.
it floors me how flippant people are with their own data privacy and the data security of the information about their drivers. And like, that information is being misused all day, every day in a lot of different quarters. So I think it is really critical, and I think a really smart approach of yours, that you're not building your business around selling other people's data. Like, you're not charging your customers for use of the system and then turning around and selling their data to other people. I think it's horrible that that happens, and I just cannot comprehend why it is that other fleets aren't freaking out about it. But it's great. One of the things that I
Yeah.
really like about your service is that you don't do that.
Yeah, to us, we're in the business of keeping that information private and secure above all other things, right? We are a data management and security company above all other things, and making sure that that stuff stays on lockdown is super important. Honestly, I'm relatively new to the trucking industry. I'm just over 3 years in now, and I think it was probably a few months in, as I was getting my head wrapped around everything, that I learned that data selling was part of the package, for some companies that have some overlap with what we do. And I was like, what?
Yeah,
I
you're
didn't
like,
get
what
it.
are you talking about?
Yeah. That seems just not right to me. But I mean, yeah, I'm biased. But I mean, you want to keep your driver data
Yeah,
locked down
that's
and
that's
secure.
private.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If they want to reach out to other people, they will. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to happen automatically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about what's new, because I know you've got a lot of things happening with the TruckRight platform. So talk about some of the things that you have been releasing, or some of the things that are coming up to sort of build on what you've got as a core.
Yeah, I think this year there were a couple of big things. Some new search functionality was introduced to TruckRight, which really some of our clients are large, quite large, and they have a lot of information in the system. And search functionality is a big deal. How do you find exactly what you're looking for, who you're looking for, or more importantly, groups of things
Hmm.
that you're looking for? And this enhanced search functionality that's been added to the system has been a godsend for a lot of our clients, to be able to dig through, thousands, tens of thousands of records to get to the groups of ones that they need. It's really helpful if you've got, say, candidates who weren't right for you 3 years ago, but now maybe they are, and you need to batch them out and reach out to them. It's really helpful if you just remember something that you've got to find fast. That was sounds like refined search functionality sounds like a small thing, but it's a technically complex thing. Search can go into a lot of places, and it's been a huge thing for a lot of our clients. Another thing is a speedy resume search functionality. We post with TruckRight, you can post automatically to job boards, your job postings, and Indeed, in order to get the most of it, you usually use some functionality called Indeed Apply. And what that means is people click a button and their resume comes into the system. And so, in order to review people fast, being able to click through their resumes really seamlessly and promote them or not promote them is super helpful. And that's a big thing that we've added this year. Now, I got into speed of review there and doing things in groups. I think the next few months, you're going to see some huge and awesome changes to TruckRight that are going to add to the ability to do things quicker and quicker all the time without losing the level of oversight, robustness, and the ability to review things properly. But kind of retooling some of our core functionality, particularly on the recruiting side, to allow companies to really review candidates quickly, reach out to them en masse in groups if they're people who are being either accepted, moved along to the next stage, rejected, or put on hold for later. Hey, we see you've only got a year of experience or whatever it happens to be. We'll talk to you in 2 years. So really making things as seamless as possible on the bulk actions end of things. I don't want to say much more than that because I'm probably dwelling in the stuff I'm not supposed to be saying territory right now, but that's why we do podcasts.
Well, that overlaps pretty nicely with a lot of what we see currently among the best fleets. One of the themes of this year's edition was definitely people working on refining and optimizing their workflows, building on what they already have. And this is the kind of the second year of a really dismal downturn. So people are not doing new investments, but they're making more of what they have already. So we saw a lot of efforts to improve workflow. We saw a lot of efforts to collaborate and find new ways to do things more efficiently. And everything that you're talking about really lays on top of that. Like, here is the tool set that you can now use to do that stuff more efficiently, to collaborate better with drivers, to be more efficient in who you're bringing in, what you're thinking about, and even if you're not bringing in a lot of new people, managing that experience and managing the HR function within the business so that it does provide a better overall experience for drivers and for the office workers as well.
Yeah, I mean, a huge industry challenge is we're not the industry's not recruiting as much right now as it has in recent memory, right?
Mhm.
That's going to come back. There's this underlying optimism now that I feel just ready. The sun's about to start shining and things are going to pop and start to go really hard again. But I mean, the last 18 months, not so much. Recruiting's been down,
Mhm.
but uh, retention never goes away. And creating that engagement with your team. I mean, we know drivers are remote workers. They're out there. You might not see them for huge stretches. So
Mhm.
making them feel like they're part of the community that is
Mhm.
your fleet, that's huge, right? Yeah, being a best fleet has lots of um, detail oriented aspects and things that you're doing for the business, but there's also feelings involved, like
Mhm.
it's humans and just the vibe of creating a community in your company. We say company culture is something that people talk about a lot, but we're starting to view it here as more of creating community. That a company is a community, and communities have neighborhoods. The
Mhm.
recruiting team is one neighborhood. The safety team might be another neighborhood. In smaller fleets, those two neighborhoods overlap a lot because it might be a
That's
couple of people.
interesting.
But
Yeah,
but
communities
yeah,
have neighborhoods. I love that because it
yeah,
also it relates really nicely to some of the things that we're seeing where people are creating little neighborhoods within their organization, and where there used to be one driver committee, now there will be three or four driver committees with different priorities or different focus areas. And in fact, it's all of a sudden this year we hit the point where it's pretty standard practice for companies to have three committees once they get to a certain size. You get 20 drivers, you're not having three driver committees. But
yeah,
anybody that was large enough to have an established committee pretty commonly has multiple, and one of them is focused on maintenance and working with a maintenance crew. One of them is focused on operational efficiency, and one of them is focused on doing something else, social type stuff for drivers. So those neighborhoods, that's a really good analogy of how fleets are starting to build out the workplace experience for drivers. And I love the idea of the CRM type approach where you can easily communicate with those groups. We're starting to see people using more modern communication tools like Teams or Slack, or some ways where you can build out communication among those groups really nicely. So that's great that you're building on top of it. Let's talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the market. What are customers doing that's working really well for them? How are they using the system in ways that are particularly helpful in their workplaces?
yeah. I mean, to me, that there's a reason I started talking about the CRM and the communication aspects very early on. It's funny because it it's it it might be the most powerful part of the whole system because of that ability to create that belonging and community, right?
Mhm.
And I think that the fleets who are really getting the most out of TruckRight use it a lot to make their lives easier because you can automate a lot of the stuff that has to go out, right? You have to send notifications about certain things, celebrating people's birthdays, stuff like that. But setting up all that kind of community or cultural stuff, birthdays, milestones, office news, stuff like that, and getting that automated to the entire driving force and being able to split it and get it to the right messages to the right people at the right times and in a timely fashion without picking up a whole bunch of extra work to make it happen.
Mhm.
That's the part that's getting a lot of use right now while recruiting is down a bit. And of course, the compliance aspects never go away, right? So um, the uh, the the whole automated aspect of compliance where drivers get alerts when they've got to provide something and they can literally do it on
Mhm.
it's blurred so you can't see it. That's my phone.
Mhm.
But the ability to, get pinged automatically, get your stuff uploaded, and maybe never have to think of it again. And
Mhm.
then the fleet being alerted if someone is delinquent in said things, so that they can reach out and make it happen. I mean, that never goes away. That's always there. That's the underlying kind of core functionality. But to me, yeah, the ability to engage, to build that sense of belonging, that sense of community. By the way, that extends past people who actually work for you, right?
Mhm.
That's the idea of community. My problem with the idea of culture, which, to be clear, it's a really smart way to look at it as well. However, you can't really expect diverse groups of people who are working for you. And when and by diverse, I mean different units or
Mhm.
departments. They don't necessarily care about the same things, and they're not going to overlap 100% in a Venn diagram. And so, a community, they overlap half or something like that. And so, as a different neighborhood within that community, they can have their own unique aspect of department culture, right?
Mhm.
Um, and But that extends past the drivers. It's their families too.
Mhm.
I mean, fleets where people love to work, the families are involved. There might be communities for spouses,
Mhm.
um, get-togethers for people beyond, for families and things like that. And that's what makes it community. And then, of course, you've got customers and you've got vendors, and so the
Mhm.
community has these tendrils that
Mhm.
go out further than the people who are actually on the payroll.
That's a really interesting observation. And it's kind of funny that for truck driving, which is such a disconnected, out in the middle of nowhere type job, or it's perceived as that, and there's a lot of time spent alone, but it is a more connected job than a lot of others. Like you're talking about the family, and it is a job that affects the family much more than a lot of other jobs do. So the family needs to be involved. The family needs to be happy with what's happening at the company, or it's going to be the end of that driver's career there, right? If the
Yeah,
family's not
and
happy, that driver's going to leave.
they need to understand, right? And
Mhm.
get, and get it and be part of it, and be and understand, A, the vibe, and B, you know why the drivers will wait so
Mhm.
much. Even if it's local, the shifts can be long.
Mhm.
So having that understanding and being part of it, right?
Mhm.
Belonging is, I think, a strong word for that. And
Well,
yeah.
yeah, that's a good point. And you also mentioned customers, which is also interesting that the driver may spend as much time at a customer site as they spend at the company's terminal. Right? So
Yep.
they're very connected. It's a little bit like consultants where you may have a head office, but you rarely go there. You spend all your time on client sites doing your consulting work. So the relationship with those customers becomes critically important. It's
Yep.
not like something where you're sitting in an office and the customer is some distant person that you rarely interact with. It may be more important to you than your coworkers or your superiors in a lot of ways. So it is important to have those tools for communicating and staying in touch. And when building a culture, like you say, build an extended culture that recognizes all of that. So
Yep.
yeah, really good observations. So now I have a hard question for you. Where do you
Uh-oh.
see the future going? Well, where are things headed, both in truck rights world and in the industry in general? What do you see?
Yeah, well, in truck rights world, as you know, software never stops. It's about constantly improving what you've got now and adding new stuff. As I said, on the truck ride side, allowing people to do more faster is what technology does, and truck ride's no different. And that's what you're going to see a lot of in the coming months. The um, the industry, there have been some speed bumps in the last
Mhm.
few weeks, but and the last 18 months haven't been great, maybe a bit longer, but towards the end of last year, and especially coming back in January this year, the optimism was there. You could feel it. It was palpable. The vibe was
Mhm.
picking up. People were excited again. And that's there, right? That optimism is there. It's underlying. And as I said, the sun's going to come out soon. It's going to pop, and uh, everything's going to pick up and be awesome again. I think that 2025 is going to be a huge year in transportation. We might be on a bit of a delay fuse for it right now, but it's going to happen. Still feel it. I mean, it was just at ExpoCam not too long ago, and everyone was in a good mood despite frustrations that they might be feeling at this exact minute. They can
Mhm.
all feel it too. So That's it for me. It's optimism and sunny
Okay.
days ahead. Yeah.
Well, great. I think that is a fantastic place to end. Optimism and sunny days ahead. So thanks, Chris, for being part of this, and thanks to TruckRight for sponsoring. And we will be looking forward to catching up with everybody soon.
Yeah, can't wait to see you at the event, which is that will already have happened by the time this airs. So, but
Yes.
I'll see you soon, Mark.
Okay. Thank you.